If you love college football, love to debate and discuss it, follow us on Twitter at MarkRogersTV. Now on to our Week 3 college football predictions. Not such a great week in Week 2. 9-11 against the spread. We were 15-5 straight up, but listen up for the confidence picks. 3-1 last week. 6-1 for the young season. 6-1 confidence picks. That's against the spread. 52-22 in 2+ seasons against the spread. Confidence picks, and we've got 3 more coming your way. Let's start with a noon game. Stanford going to Army cross country. Cardinal coming off a big win over San Jose State, a team that almost beat them last season. Cardinal won at 34-13 impressively. They're a 30-point favorite against Army. You know what I think about large point spreads. Like to stay away from them. But we pick all the top 25 games here, so we go Stanford minus 30 against Army, a team that got blasted by Ball State by 26 points. Michigan-Akron. We believe Michigan's a top 10 team legitimately. Again, they can call the number here. They're a 37-point favorite at home against the Zips, one of the most dismal programs in Division I-A football, FBS football. Michigan, 37 points. They will cover if they want to. Michigan minus 37. Louisville, Kentucky. Kentucky 1-1. Louisville played extremely well in its first 2 games. Teddy Bridgewater barely throwing the football on the ground. He's completing 77% of his passes. That's number 1 in the country. We like Louisville to get past Kentucky and to do it by more than 14 points. So take the Cardinals minus the 14 against Kentucky on the road. It's a short trip. Florida State, Nevada, tricky point spread here at 35 for Nevada. They lost by 38 to UCLA. Florida State, of course, coming off the impressive showing against Pitt. They're at home. Jamison Winston, impressive, obviously, with the 2 incompletions and the 4 touchdowns in the opener, but we like Nevada plus the 35 points. Again, big point spreads in the mismatches means that players who we don't know are going to be on the field most likely in the fourth quarter. The play calling's in question. Do the teams go for the jugular or do they play it safe? And what's the motivation of the players out there? Difficult to tell. We've got another game kind of like that, but 2 top-level programs in Oregon and Tennessee. Tennessee goes cross-country. They take on an Oregon team that's been amazing in 2 games. Obviously, it was Nicholls State in week 1, but against Virginia, a mid-level ACC squad, 59-10 on the road. That was a confidence pick that we took Oregon minus the 22.5 last week. This time we like Tennessee. We're going to trust the SEC. And even though it's a lower-level SEC team, probably the 9th or 10th best team in the league, maybe, we're going to trust the SEC athletes in staying somewhat close. Sure, we like Oregon to win this thing big, but let's go with 49-24, something like that. Oregon wins big, but Tennessee covers the 28 points. Ole Miss and Texas, we posted a video on this matchup. It's a very intriguing matchup considering the Rebels are on the rise with a top 5 recruiting class. Most of those big talents played very well on the road against Vandy a couple weeks ago in the opener, winning in comeback fashion. Texas firing defensive coordinator and bringing in Greg Robinson, an old standby from years ago. Mac Brown possibly in trouble in Austin. Longhorns look dismal in giving up 550 rushing yards against BYU last week. So it all sets up for an Ole Miss win, but we should know better. Texas at home, Texas with 5-star athletes, Texas with a fine quarterback in David Ash, although he's banged up and Case McCoy may need to come in and play this game. He's got 6 career starts. So we like Ole Miss to pull off the slight upset on the road against Texas. So take Ole Miss plus the 3 points. Rebels do win the football game outright as well. South Carolina-Vanderbilt. Gamecocks coming off a tough loss at Georgia last week, 41-30. Vandy off to a decent start despite the loss against Ole Miss. A very good Ole Miss team in the final seconds. We like Vanderbilt to cover the spread here. South Carolina is going to win the game, but the Commodores are a very sound football team. As long as they can get good quarterback play from their inexperienced quarterback in taking over for Jordan Rodgers, we like Vanderbilt to keep it close. So take the Commodores plus the 14 points. South Carolina wins the football game outright. Tough point spread here with Oklahoma taking on Tulsa. Sooners only defeated West Virginia last week 16-7. Sooners were a 21-point favorite. We loved that point spread and made it a confidence pick with West Virginia plus the 21. This week, Oklahoma 24-point favorite against Tulsa, a Tulsa team that lost its top receiving target on the last drive of the game against Colorado State to a broken leg, like Darius Garrett, a guy who caught 12 touchdowns last season. So that doesn't help. Tulsa's got to travel to Oklahoma, not a huge deal there. These teams typically play, and typically it's an Oklahoma rout. The Golden Hurricane not as good as they've been in previous seasons in winning Conference USA in the Liberty Bowl last season. They won 11 games last season, but came out and lost by 27 to Bowling Green. Barely beat Colorado State last week. So we like Oklahoma with Blake Bell taking over at quarterback and that defense to really take it to Tulsa. Tulsa's barely going to score in this game, so we like Oklahoma to cover 24 points against Tulsa. Okay, confidence pick coming up here. Get me straight. Ohio State's a much better team than Cal. This will prove in the long run. But this is a difficult game for the Buckeyes. First of all, they played this Cal team last year at home, and it was a 28-28 game with like 6 minutes to play before Braxton Miller on a blown coverage found Devin Smith for 72 yards. Cal gave Ohio State fits. Cal's got speed. They've got Sonny Dykes now coaching the team, and he's going to have them ready to play this game. Sonny Dykes, long known for pulling off upsets or at least scares against top-level teams. He will have his team ready. The young quarterback Goff has 2 games under his belt, including a pretty impressive showing against Northwestern. I know the score says 44-30, but it was tied with about 5 minutes to play against Northwestern, one of the top 20 teams in the country. Ohio State has some issues, possibly at quarterback. Braxton Miller is banged up. He most likely will play. Kenny Guyton is a drop-off. I know Buckeyes fans love Kenny Guyton, and you've got to admire what he's done on the field, especially that Purdue game last season when he led the improbable game-winning drive, game-tying drive, and the overtime victory. But Kenny Guyton, a big drop-off from Braxton Miller, so if the Buckeyes have to go that route, plain and simple, Ohio State will be a much better team down the road, but the defense is still improving, still needs to get there. They have not seen anything like Cal this season with San Diego State and Buffalo on the schedule. So we like Cal plus the 16 in a confidence pick. Cal plus 16 as the Buckeyes win this thing by like 10. Ohio State does win the football game. Cal plus the 16 confidence pick. LSU and Kent. This one difficult at 36.5 points because the Tigers typically run it in the second half with a 20-25 point lead, but they did pour it on against UAB. Zach Mettenberger is feeling it. He is starting to show us that he could possibly be a big-time quarterback. LSU is a sleeper in this particular season. Nobody's talked about them in the preseason, and they showed up against TCU in particular. And if they get that passing game going with Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. in support of Zach Mettenberger, look out for this team, and certainly A&M and Bama will need to as well. LSU minus the 36.5 against Kent. All right, confidence pick. Purdue has looked atrocious. Their new head coach coming from Kent State, he'll do a good job. He's an up-and-comer, certainly in the coaching fraternity, and we expect him in the long term to do a nice job, but they have looked awful in 2 games. They got completely annihilated by Cincinnati, 45-7. Then even against Indiana State. Indiana State, the Sycamores gave up 7-3 against Indiana, and Purdue escaped like 20-14 against Indiana State. So we like Notre Dame. We know that the defense did not look great last week, but consider Michigan is a top 10 football team, legitimately. Notre Dame went on the road. They were in that game until 3-4 minutes left in the game. We like Notre Dame to blast Purdue. We're looking at like 45-20, something in that range. So take Notre Dame and lay the 20.5 points. We like Notre Dame in this game. In a confidence pick, take the Irish over Purdue. Northwestern, Western Michigan, difficult point spread here at 30, but take Northwestern minus the 30 against Western. Some really good football games involving Big Ten teams. Arizona State, Wisconsin as the Badgers travel west. Difficult with the 2 time zones away. Late night game, and despite it being a 7 o'clock game actually on the West Coast, the heat is going to be a factor. We're looking at 103 high 82 for the low, so game time temperatures probably will be in the mid to lower 90s. Wisconsin was going to play an exceptional game here. They're going to play it close. They're going to play it tough, but we do like Arizona State to win the game. They have an exceptional defense. We like Taylor Kelly at quarterback opening up the offense against Wisconsin. We think Arizona State's got some speed matchups in space. Wisconsin will play tough. They will show up and do well. They've gone to the Rose Bowl 3 consecutive seasons and played a Pac-12 team and TCU down to the wire, down to the last possession. But 5.5, actually a 5-point spread for Arizona State, despite it being a very close game. We're going to take the Sun Devils to cover, to win and to cover, -5 against Wisconsin. Okay, Washington, Illinois. The Illini surprised last week in just blasting Cincinnati 45-17 as a 9-point underdog. That was a missed confidence pick, our only one of the season. So you've got Washington, very impressive in its opener against Boise State, 38-6. Steve Sarkisian got a bye week before this Illinois trip, so we like Washington going on the road and exposing Illinois for what they are. An improving team, but still a team that went 2-10 last year and is probably headed toward 4-8 or 5-7 this season. So we've got Washington -9.5 against Illinois. UCLA in Nebraska. Nebraska talking about revenge after its defense went out to the West Coast last year and got annihilated. The offense kept them in the game, as it typically does. 36-30 game, 653 total yards of offense for UCLA in just Brett Hundley's second or third football game of the season of his career as a freshman. So the advantage here is that Bo Pelini has seen Nebraska now. Jim Mora was a first-year head coach last season. He's at home this time against UCLA. And you would think Nebraska's defense would be improving. You would think they were just embarrassed a number of times last season against Ohio State and this game against UCLA, and of course in the Big Ten championship game against Wisconsin. But we do not see it. You can talk revenge all you want, but we don't see the improvement Nebraska needs to show on defense. They gave up 34 points to Wyoming and tons of yardage. Southern Miss is an awful football team, and Nebraska took care of business there. UCLA comes to Nebraska, and they create mismatches in space. Hundley's an exceptional quarterback. Nebraska scores a ton. It stays close, but we've got UCLA plus 4 points here. So we take the Bruins plus the 4, and UCLA pulls out the football game, something like 34-31. Very good football game. Looking forward to watching that one. And finally, the game of the week, maybe the game of the season. We see how things play out down the road. Alabama-Texas A&M. We've talked about it. We have 3 video posts previewing this game. So check those out because we matched up the offense and the defenses and the whole deal. All we'll say here is that Nick Saban's got a bye week to fix the offensive line issues. He's had an entire offseason to prepare for Johnny Manziel. And so we like Alabama to go to College Station, win the football game with superior defense. Don't trust the Aggies' defense at all. Johnny Manziel's going to make plays, and the Aggies are going to score points. But we like Bama to cover 7.5 points because they've got an exceptional defense. Texas A&M has a marginal SEC defense. So you lay out 2 excellent offenses. And I know Texas A&M has the reputation of having this flash offense that's so much better than Alabama. But in reality, the offenses, in terms of effectiveness, are very comparable. TJ Yeldon's exceptional. Amari Cooper's one of the best in the business. He's got a supporting cast with Norwood and Bell. And A.J. McCarron is as good as it gets in the clutch. So we take Bama. We lay 7.5 against Texas A&M. There are picks for the week. Again, our confidence picks. Cal plus 16 against Ohio State. Notre Dame minus 20.5 against Purdue. And UCLA plus 4 against Nebraska. Would love to hear your picks now on Mark Rogers TV.